I'm Susan Drumm, and welcome to this special edition of the Leaders Playlist, where you can use the power of music and neuroscience to transform your leadership and your life. Each episode, we're going to feature exclusive interviews with leaders to give you groundbreaking strategies that help you get the edge in personal and leadership effectiveness. Go to susandrumm.com to learn more. My guest today is John Brampton, who was recently named the top online influencer in the world by Entrepreneur Magazine. So I am so grateful to have you here, John, to talk about the book.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you very much for making this happen.
Thank you. So tell me, what do you want to know about the Leaders Playlist? What's piquing your interest?
When I'm thinking of a leader, I might have my preconceived notion, and I think all of us are like, oh my word, what is a leader about? Is it this? Is it that? But what is Leaders Playlist about for you?
Well, behind the scenes, it's really about how the experiences we had in childhood show up in how we lead and connect with others. And I think sometimes that's a blind spot for people, or it's hidden. But what I've found in doing this work now for over 20 years is our childhood wounds show up in the workplace. And unless we do the work to heal them, they're going to keep showing up in the way where others experience us, and as well as the way in which we empower and manage or control others in the process.
Yeah. When we're talking about leaders and stuff, I know you have worked with some of the biggest companies out there, leaders from Fortune 500 companies, big names. What got you into this work?
Oh, I have an eclectic background, and it took me a while to find my stride. I tried a lot of different things. I went to law school and at Harvard and didn't end up practicing law. So if you can imagine, my parents were probably like, okay, you just invested in all this education and you went to Harvard Law School and you're not going to practice law. But what law gave me was this ability to make distinctions. But usually it's to make distinctions in case law. And instead I use it to make distinctions in mindset. So it was really powerful. And it was out of that I started to realize that I was interested in more consulting work in the business side of things. I went into business strategy work at BCG, and then I went to NBC doing marketing and business development. And then out of that, I went to drama school and I got a master's in acting. And little did I know that all these things would come together in the leadership development work I do. And I think it was really the acting experience that was the most transformative, because it, as an actor, you really have to learn how to deal with that inner critic inside your head, or you can't be present with your fellow actor. You're worried about what the person, and I kept thinking, God, there's got to be a way I could use this in business. And the more I learned some of the things in acting, I started to explore, well, what is an avenue to bring this to business? And that was leadership development. So that's how I got started back in the field. I think it was 2002.
Wow. It's been a while.
Yes.
Yeah. What's probably along the road one of the most important things that you've learned during that time?
Yes, I think that we all have blind spots, and it's okay to be more open to discovering what that is, that this is a process of discovery. And even for myself in writing this book, as I wrote about my life, I saw things that I had never seen before. And I've been doing this work for 20 years for myself. So part of that is to be in the process of learning and discovery. And those leaders that are sort of hungry to learn more about themselves and about other people are the ones that really thrive.
Yeah. And along those lines, what is the biggest differentiator between high growth leaders and non-high growth leaders?
It's their ability to scale and lead through others. So sometimes people say, well, we've got this high performer, but he comes with so much damage along the way, or she comes with so much damage along the way. And so we can't keep certain staff. I just heard a story like this. They hired a very senior executive into a company, And the person that has the issue has been there for a long time and essentially drove this new person out. They're like, I'm not
Yeah.
going to work with this great, and they won't correct the stalwart's behavior because he's been so valuable over the years in his individual contribution. But as opposed to looking at someone's individual contribution, you need to look at how they impact the system, the
Yeah.
company, the organization, the team, and that should be a big part of their compensation, not so much this individual contributor. So that's what I see the real difference is the ability of a high performing leader to empower others to help scale the organization and recognize that just them performing well isn't the solution. You're not going to get any scale from that. It's, can you create the conditions for others to succeed?
When working with Fortune 500 CEOs, and any CEO really, what is the biggest misconception that you see, or problem or issue, but I would say misconception people see about their own leadership style?
Well, originally I was going to say often I'm brought in by, let's say, the C-suite team to fix the next level down. And I
Yeah.
always want to go, your leadership culture is top down. So let's start with you and look at how you're leading, because you're driving some of the behavior that you see in the next level down. It doesn't mean that, yes, the next level down or 2 levels down can't use some leadership development, but ultimately it also, like, what are you doing at the senior levels and what are you modeling is really the question. The misconception is it's everybody else's problem.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think that's true even to the individual level, that, if only my boss was different, or if only this company had a better culture, you're always going to find roadblocks, but it's who are you being?
I mean, that's natural behavior though. In
Yeah.
each and every one of us, in our marriage, this is going wrong. Our kids, it's this, it's that. In business, it's this. And when I go to the gym, it's this. Like, we're always tend to blame others and blame this, which I love that you're bringing up. It does start at the very top. And, it's not just, lower level.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. You really want to look at how you're leading your life. Like, how often are you faulting the external world? And that's why this book is really about what can you do in the inner world to shift so that your external world shows up differently. And what I mean by that is when the external world will show up differently to you because you're paying attention to different things than you were in the past when you shift the internal world.
So over the past couple of years, we've had, a pandemic, potential recession, wars. Why is this so important right now?
Oh, it is. I feel like it is needed now more than ever. I think, we've all faced some sort of trauma over the pandemic. And I think there was a feeling for many of loneliness and isolation. And now that we're coming back, there's a lot of questions about what's my purpose and what really matters to me. Now that I went through this experience, do I even like my job? Do I even like what I'm doing? Who do I want to be connected to? I think it's just surfaced so many questions about what our life is about and where we find fulfillment. And I really believe that if you don't get clear on what you're running towards, you're focused on what you're running away from. And that is never a recipe for success.
Yep. Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Pre-pandemic, I mean, just giving you a little insight into me, pre-pandemic, I was on the road about 120 days every single year. And now I'm not on the road a lot. I'm taking off almost every single Friday. I'm living more the life that I want to live versus letting others dictate, how I should live. I think I'm not alone in this. There's a lot of people, and some of the companies that I'm involved with are noticing that they're losing people if they don't subscribe to certain philosophies or allow their employees to do this, or they have a different type of leadership style. I think the leadership styles from pre-pandemic to post-pandemic are very different.
Yes.
And they take different leaders different ways of going about things and different leadership styles on understanding this big shift in our world. And it's not just the US, it's not just Canada, it's not just the UK. I believe it's everywhere, and I've been seeing that everywhere. So in this process and playlist that I'm going through, how long is this going to take? Like, is this, are we talking like a day or two or a week, or how long is this going to take?
And when you say take to what? Take to shift some underlying fundamental childhood wound that is showing up in your leadership?
I mean,
it's going to take 30 minutes.
Process.
No,
like,
yes, right.
This process that you're taking us through, what should I expect?
Yeah. Well, in the book, I outline a 7-step process for the methodology of really uncovering where's the area where you're bumping your head up against a ceiling that seems to be, it's just something you can't break through, or you notice it being a pattern in your life and you want to shift it. But you first have to get, step one, as I say, you have to have a belly full of it. You have to get to the point where, like, I no longer want to operate in this way. I'm committed to change, because without that, change just doesn't happen. So how long does that take? I don't know, because how long does it take you to get to the point where you're really committed to make the shift? Once you're committed to make the shift, I think things transpire to make that happen. So part of the work is getting really clear on what the old playlist is. And we use that term both literally and figuratively. So figuratively is like, what's that background music that's been playing that it's like, I'm treated unfairly, or I'm not good enough, imposter syndrome, I'm not safe. What is that old emotional resonance? And how can we find an anchor song, that's the literally, that represents that, so you can catch yourself when you're going down that 4-lane highway to hell, that neural pathway that's been grooved. And so there's a little bit of time to do that. And then there's some time to say, what do you want the new to be? So we need to really get clear what the old playlist is, and then get clear of what do we want to build as the new one. And so that work is looking at what is the new emotional resonance that you want to be in, right? I want to feel welcomed. I want to feel blessed and in love, whatever it may be. And what is the music that best represents that? Because that's going to shift your emotional state. And the more you practice it, just like the more you practice playing flute or anything, the better that neural pathway gets grooved in the brain, and the more likely that you're going to be able to make that shift and it gets incorporated into really who you are. So in terms of how long that takes, it really depends on the amount of practice, the amount of, time that the old playlist has been grooved, how quickly you start to learn to catch yourself and switch to the new one, how much you're practicing that new playlist. And we talk about in the book various ways how you use the playlist to keep, do you practice it every day? Well, yes, I hope so, because that's what's going to make the change faster. If you only practice it once a week, it's going to take longer. Okay.
I love it. I'm in. I am in. Where do I find out more?
So if you go to the leadersplaylistbook.com, you'll see all the information. It's really a mission for me to help people see that what they're avoiding or what they're running from, they don't have to do that anymore. And so it's a true effort of healing the way we see the world, because if we continue down this path, we're all going to suffer in so many ways, from climate change to, the political infighting to all of that stuff going on. So this is just a much bigger mission to help really anyone, but I'm particularly looking at leaders because that's the playground I'm in, to help make those shifts in their own consciousness.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. It has been very enlightening for me, and I really appreciate you, Susan. You're amazing. I can't wait to take my leadership to the next level.
I'm so glad. Thank you for coming on and for being curious about what this is and allowing me to share some of the thoughts. So it was awesome having you on the show.
Thanks.
Curious about the concepts we talked about in this episode? Go to theleadersplaylistbook.com to learn more and purchase the book. And stay tuned for the next episode of the Leaders Playlist.